Welcome to Uncontained episode 17. I'm your host, Aaron Static Render, and normally on Uncontained we talk to the performers, the actors, the comedians, the musicians, the people in front of the scenes. Today we're going to take a step behind the scenes and talk to Alex Best. He's a recording engineer. He owns his own recording studio in Tucson, Arizona called Elastic Labs, spelled with a K at the end, just in case you want to Google it. He got his start in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, playing with the band Pneumatic and learning how to record in his parents' basement, where all good things start. And then packed up, moved to Tucson, Arizona, and started recording bands in his studio, trying to create an environment where creativity can grow, less pressure, less stress, and not having to worry as much about every second that goes by trying to offer an affordable product. In this interview, we talk a little bit more about his approach to a recording studio and the environment he tries to create, along with some advice for people trying to start their own studio and for people who are trying to bring their band into a studio, what they need to do to be ready. Right now, before we get this interview started, I have a little spotlight of one of the bands Alex is recording out of Tucson, Arizona. They are called As We Fall, and the track is called At Her All. I was only able to play a minute of this track, so I tried to pick a clip that showed the full diversity of the track, from the more melodic singing to the full-on metal aspect of the band. So enjoy your sneak peek at the new track from As We Fall right here on Uncontained, episode 17 with Alex Best. How are you doing today, Alex?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for coming on Uncontained.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, dude. No problem. It should be an exciting show. And before we get any further, you want to give my audience a little insight to who you are?
Sure. I am currently an audio engineer in Tucson, Arizona. I work with a lot of local, regional acts, as well as people from all over the world through mixing and mastering remote services. I started recording about 10 years ago, so it's been a long journey, and I also play guitar and have played with a lot of bands over the years, and I started off in the Midwest, done a little bit of touring, and then ended up down here and doing what I do now.
And down there is Tucson, correct?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, how did you end up getting into your studio? Is called Elastic Labs,
Yes,
correct?
Yes.
All right. How did you end up getting into owning and founding the studio?
Well, it was actually the second studio I ran. The first one was in my parents' basement, the way a lot of people start. But that was the first studio that I actually co-founded with Austin Switalski, who was a coworker of mine when we both were in the Guitar Center working days and in our 20s, early 20s, that is. And we just decided we wanted to open a studio. I was sick of being in my parents' basement and bugging them, and he needed a place to record, so we teamed up and rented a place out, and this is back in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in a big commercial space there, and we kind of just started it, not sure how to do what we were doing, but I mean, besides our just skills. But for business, it was the first time we've really ever done it, and we kind of started off, and then I had ventures that seeked me elsewhere, and I ended up moving. And then Austin ended up leaving Iowa as well. He's in Nashville and still does recording, and we stay in touch too. So we're kind of both just rocking it, seeing where it, riding it, so see where it goes.
Cool. So, is his studio called Elastic too? Is it like Elastic Austin, Elastic Tucson?
Well, he's in Nashville.
Oh, Nashville.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm in Tucson. I mean, he's even come down here and worked on an artist up in Phoenix named Phoenix. Came down. He flew out here and did tracking in my studio. I mean, we still do work together. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of been using the name a little bit, but it's more even for me. It's just, hey, it's Alex Best. The name is just kind of the fun part, Everyone just seems to use our personal names, and that's the guy,
Cool. Do you specialize in one certain type of music, or is it limited to music?
It's not limited to music, but I primarily just from what I grew up in and the skills I learned how to do this towards is primarily in modern metal, rock, radio stuff, that sort of thing. I work in a very untraditional way where, my studio is fairly bare bones. It's kind of a new way with the new home recording revolution, if you will, that started, about 10 years ago, when I got into it. And I was lucky to be one of the early guys that figured this out on message boards before YouTube and all that stuff, And I just use pretty much everything in the box, which means all digital versions. So I don't have compressors, EQs, lining up my walls. I have it all in digital form and plugins, which now that algorithms are getting really, really more accurate, some of those plugins, I mean, even the top guys in the industry use plugins now, and it's easier all around, and you can travel, you can work remote, you don't have to do recalls, setting all your dials back to the way you had it. So,
So you don't have that huge soundboard in your studio anymore. It's just all on your computer.
Correct. Yep. And I just plug it into a couple little pieces of gear. I mean, it's really minimalist.
Oh, that's cool. It probably made it a lot easier to start up too,
Exactly.
like cost wise.
Yep. And then you just put a lot into the single components, and then the rest is, I mean, like I said, I use everything primarily digitally, so I've invested a lot in plugins in that sort of form, which is a lot cheaper than buying the thousands of dollars and worth of equipment. But you can get very, very similar results, that's for sure. You just have to use your ear.
Right on. Yeah, that's crazy how much improvement there's been from the first audio recording stuff that came out for the computer now and what we have now. Say you work mostly with new metal bands or
rock. I've worked with a vast variety of rock to anything with electric guitars and stuff. I've done blues guys. I've done jazz people. I mean, I'm always open to anything, but I have a niche in metal.
Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I just have a niche in metal, and it's just the rarity that I learned on, and not a lot of people are good at getting what the bands are looking for. It's kind of a specialty, if you will.
Yes, and for those of you that don't know, Alex was in metal bands in Cedar Rapids. Was it Undisclosed that you were in?
No, I toured with those guys. I filled in on bass for about a month when they were touring. I was with band Pneumatic.
Pneumatic,
Yep.
That's it. It's been so long, dude. I'm sorry.
Dude, no, I know, man. That was 8 years ago, dude. And that was the first album I ever recorded and did. And before I ever worked for anybody else, I did that album. Recorded it all myself on a Behringer, cheap mixer, cheap mics, cheap cables, cheap everything, not knowing what I was doing. and it somehow still holds up. I still talk to the guys in Pneumatic, and they're still all good friends of mine. And every once in a while, one of us will text each other and be like, man, just listen to that album again. How does it still hold water like 8 years later? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I didn't know what I was doing. But, sometimes that's the coolest part, It's just going in and jumping right into the deep end and, going for it.
Right on, man. Yeah, sometimes, you just stumble onto something that works and you can't try to reproduce it
Oh
either,
yeah,
It's
no, I tried to like redo a track once, and I was just like, wow, this is just weird. It just didn't come together the same way. But who knows? Maybe we'll redo it when I get bored someday or take a vacation, whenever that is.
There you go, like new pneumatic or something.
New pneumatic, nice.
Yeah, just some really horribly cheesy name or
Yep.
something like
Oh,
that.
it'd be great. Yeah, we used to have a joke band, me and a friend back actually from Undisclosed, Wagner, who was in Undisclosed. We had a joke band called Lumberjack Priest. That was fun. Pretty.
Please tell me you recorded something as Lumberjack Priest.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I still got them somewhere, but they'll probably never see the light of day.
So Lumberjack Priest. How did you come up with that name?
Oh man, I don't know. It was back when I was in college, and I don't remember how we came up with it.
There's got to be a story
I
behind it.
really
man.
can't even tell you, man. You'll have to ask Wagner. I think he's the one who came up with it. He was the creative one.
What is he in now? Is he in a band now?
He just got back to Iowa. He just joined cover band Red Door. Just got announced recently. So he's
Okay.
yeah. And then the guys in Undisclosed, John and Tom, and one of the older members, Travis, who was in the band too. They're in Captain Punch, which is a cover band. They're playing out constantly around Cedar Rapids and the eastern Iowa area, and Wagner will be doing the same thing. And with Red Door, for the most part, they're a cover band as well.
Okay, like I've been seeing a lot of things on Captain Punch on Facebook, but I did not know what they were about.
Yep.
I was like trying to find something on YouTube, couldn't find anything.
Get it together, guys. I'm just kidding.
I know. You promote with visuals, but no audio, and you're a band.
I love those dudes. Yeah, no, I've seen them a couple times. Thankfully, they played when I visited back in Iowa. They played a couple times. I've seen them a few, and they're a good time. Always fun. Like I don't really dig cover bands too much. Like I don't go out and religiously go see them or anything. But these guys are just entertainment, as well as amazing players. So it's a win-win.
And then are they also all in original bands too, or are they just focusing on Captain Punch right now?
Yeah, they're just focusing on that. Yeah, but
right on.
good old Undisclosed
in Cedar
dudes.
Rapids. In Cedar Rapids, that's kind of what you have to do to be successful as a band, unfortunately.
Hey, I mean,
because
gotta get that money.
Bars only want cover bands there. At least that's what it was like when I left. I'm going back a few days, and we'll see if that's true.
Hey, I'm going back in a few days too, man.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna miss each other, man.
Bummer, dude.
Yeah, I come back on the 7th of June. I think you're getting out there just after that.
Yep, exactly. Ah, well.
Now people can. I'll wait till after the travel dates are up, so people can like stalk us.
Don't know why you'd want to follow me around Iowa.
Me either, man. I don't know. Just for our egos.
Okay, there you go.
Feed those things, man. So, I was looking at your website for Elastic Labs, Alex, and I saw that you have a different philosophy on how, you kind of treat bands that come in or people who come in and record.
Yeah.
Than other bands, try to make it less intimidating.
Yes, I record out of my house, which is immediately more of a home atmosphere. Guys want to go watch some TV while we're doing guitars or something like that. I mean, it's just like Mikasa Sukasa, and so that really takes it off. And then I'm affordable. Like, I don't want people to sit here looking at their watch, thinking, oh God, I'm wasting dumb amount of dollars per second or something. I want people to be comfortable not thinking about that and actually get out creatively. So, we'll always I become almost sometimes involved with the band as another member for a little while. I'll help them write, I'll help them with advice on what to do here or there, and form a bond with them. Some of my best friends are in bands that I record. We just have a good time, and it's just a relaxed environment. No, it's not like you can't touch anything, or don't touch all this equipment. It's super expensive. It's a very personal at home vibe. Like it's just like hanging out with buddies. So like doing, 24-hour weekends, in 2 days, tracking with a band like I have been recently as we watch them fall, 12, 13 hours a day goes by like nothing, doesn't, because everything's comfortable. But then we all listen to everything we did, and it's just like, wow, because the best performances come out when you're relaxed, and having a good time. So I like to focus on that, and making sure everyone's comfortable.
Okay, and what made you come to that realization?
I didn't like the original studio format, and it started back when I was in Iowa, and a few places, when I had a band at 16, 17, and needed to record. It was really expensive, and we didn't have money to do that. So that's when I kind of just started learning it, and then because I was in a band, I wasn't just only an engineer that. And you walk in, it's this engineer, and they're just being slow and lazy, and you feel like they're kind of taking your money. And I've had that experience, not me personally, but I've had people talk about that experience before, and I always was just like, man, I would never want to be that guy. Like I would never want to be lazy and treat some bands with more focus than others and just go through the motions, like kind of if you're checked out, if you will, at a job. And so I like to make it fun, and I pretty much work with friends all day, and that translates into the recordings and how everything gets put together so well. And that really goes a long way than just pressing buttons and saying, here's your track. It's more personal, and I feel like it translates and makes the music better.
Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. And plus, as you were saying, like when you are relaxed, you tend to do better, and that home vibe will help you get there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what's great about having, I record drums in the house. We record everything here. And we can just, it's chill, and it's Arizona. I mean, it's always sunny. It's like, how can you not like be relaxed? It's great. So yeah, I mean, it's just a really good at-home vibe, and it really does translate into the music. And I like it because I don't have to drive to a building every day, but that's nice too.
You just get up, roll out of bed, and you're at work.
Pretty much. It's got its ups and downs, but hey.
Yeah, it makes it easier to get to, but harder to escape.
Yep, no doubt. Yeah, there's days where I'm just like, I haven't left like this house in like 4 days, dude. Like it's such a weird feeling, It's interesting.
Yes. I can imagine, man, working from home. Hopefully one day I'll be doing that with the podcast. Definitely. And not need another job to do,
Yeah.
But, or that, or podcast, voiceover, or whatever it be. But working from home would be really nice, but you could just easily be doing nothing but work for like 4 days, like you were saying.
Yeah, I have to like force myself to take days off sometimes, like I need to do something on Thursday and leave the house, because otherwise if I'm just here anyway, I just get to working on stuff. Like what else am I going to do? Like, but I love it. So it's not like it's a chore or anything,
Yeah, exactly. That is important too. Like it's easier to work the like 13-hour days when you actually like what you're doing. When it's the other way around, it's just hell. Labor,
Yeah, and that's one way I work primarily. I don't do that much advertising whatsoever. I primarily am word of mouth because I like the people that I work with, and their friends are gonna be similar to them, being friends, and then that's a nice way to kind of get more people in and stuff. Everyone I've met, tons of bands over the last years, and they've all become my friends. It's great. We just have a good time. And
cool. So do you work with the band and keep in touch with them?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm always out there at shows. I go out and support them. I always give them advice. I'll text them a funny meme or text or something if they're for the vocalist of some random band that made me think of them. We become friends, and that's what the best part about it is. I'm a social cat like that, and it's just fun, and it's helped grow the local music scene, bring more people together. And that's similar thing that I did in Iowa when I was there, that I remember running the studio there, and it brought a lot of people together. And it's really cool what it can do. And it's not just a plain cut and dry business. You can make it bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Build like a community more than just the
Yeah,
business.
exactly. I mean, if I didn't have to talk about money, I wouldn't, like it's not the fun part about the business. I like to help people with advice and, or even personal problems, they become such a, we see each other more than we see other people when we're working on an album. We spend days and days together more than most people that they'll see their girlfriends or wives or family, and so we become close. When you're doing it on an album, it's an intimate thing like that, and it's a creative thing. And it's just cool because if you just shut that switch off or ignore that fact of what is cool about that, then, you're losing part of, to me, the art, because that's part of that creativeness that everyone's working together for a collective thing. And the results are always better when everyone's on the same page.
Yes, and it's a good business model too, like the word of mouth, and that way, you, as you were saying, you get the people that are like the people you recorded before that you've liked. And is there any?
It kind of it's well working with similar people. Their bands are always going to have friends in other bands, and it's when people are that sort of they're not being the people in the music scene that cause disruptions and just want to in it for the wrong reasons or something. I mean, there's endless amounts of things I've seen over the years, but it's always good, and that helps build the bonds between bands because it's like, oh, you worked with Alex, so how did that go? And like, oh yeah, and and they come by, another band will come and a couple guys will come and hang out with another band, and they'll like kind of work with each other too, and it's like just it's more unique and personal. And I think that I got that sort of vibe, and I really hold on to that. And I learned that growing up in Iowa, man. Because, I mean, how Cedar Rapids was, dude. I mean, it's a very small place, and everyone knows each other. And, when people work together, you can do some cool stuff, So
yeah, I think the Cedar Rapids music scene, at least while we were still there, was constantly like growing and getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man.
I hope it's still going, but I guess we'll have to find out when we both go back and visit at different times.
Yeah, I go back a couple times a year and I always try to check out bands and stuff. I will throw out there the Wolfpack Summer Jam. Props to all the guys from A Casual Affair and Wolfpack Productions and putting that on. They throw together last year was the first show. I mean, unfortunately I wasn't able to go, but they're throwing together a huge local festival every summer now, and they're renting out the Hawkeye Downs little arena kind of by there for this next one, and I think it's like 20 bands or something like that, and those guys are really, really putting a lot into it and making a great fun festival. It's all local based, and I thought that's really cool, and I'm really proud of those guys. I recorded them back in Iowa. So I've gotten close to those dudes too, but I'm props to them. They're keeping it going with stuff like that. I mean, it's like, it's cool. Like, again, everyone works together. You can create some cool stuff.
So who is Wolfpack Productions?
I mean, there's a bunch of the guys involved with it. I don't want to forget any names or anything, but if you're familiar with any of the bands of Casual Affair and Kidnap the Sun, pretty much all the guys from all those bands, they're all involved with that. And Nick Barrett's been doing a little bit of recording work. Sean and Andrew Wood have been filming music videos for people, entering the Cedar Rapids Film Festival, doing just really cool stuff all together. I'm super proud of those guys. They're just doing some cool stuff, and it's awesome to hear. Yeah, it's great.
So, in addition to just recording, like, what are some of the other things that you offer, other services that you offer?
Sure. I mean, primarily, I do covers for people. I mean, it's all, based in front of the computer primarily. But I've run sound for bands, especially bands that really feel like I capture what they're about. They'll want me to go and run sound for them live, for multiple shows. I do that sort of stuff. But primarily, just recording is primarily it. I do mixing and mastering services remote, so bands from other cities, other countries can send me just their stems, their projects, and then I can do final mixing and mastering and do that little extra element on their final recordings. So other than that, primarily, I just like to work with bands in the personal realm, though, and develop them and make sure they're going in a good direction and, give them advice when needed. I've been through it all, so I'm happy to guide other people and help them out whenever needed.
Right on. So mixing and mastering, for those who don't know exactly what is the difference between, or what does mixing and mastering mean, just for the people who maybe want to get into the entertainment industry or want to get something recorded and they're like, I don't know what that means yet.
Yep. Well, it's a hard thing to relate. It's kind of like, trying to describe to someone who's never heard a guitar how a guitar sounds, But anyway, primarily when you're tracking, you just get everything captured. And then when you're into the mixing area, you make everything balance so that everything is being nice to each other and everything's blended really well and sounding good and everything's gelling. And then with mastering is where you get to, it's like the final little icing on the cake. It's the last EQ point, last compression points, like the final things over everything to make it just to the level that you want of loudness. So that, hence, if you do a song and you burn a CD or have it run an MP3 or something like that, and you go from one song to the other and how another song's a little quieter than the other one and you didn't touch your volume dial, that's a difference in mastering levels. So
okay. So your goal is to keep everything on the CD or MP3s kind of the same level from song to song. So it's not like you have you're listening to one song, then you can't hear the next song, then the next one blows your eardrums out.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that'd be the idea. But you want to hit standard sort of levels, for especially radio sort of things. It's like how advertisements are always extremely loud on the radio. You know what I mean? The mastering RMS levels are just hotter, but even though you didn't touch your volume dial, the ads on radio stations seem to be, that much louder. So radio and TV, exactly. Man, I noticed it on television too. They got to grab your attention. Yeah, I haven't had cable in like 6 years, so it's really nice not watching those ads. But yeah, no, that kind of gives you an idea of that. And you don't want intense, loud things like that because then it's just turning into distortion. So, you want it to be where the band wants it on that punchy, especially for extreme music. You want it to be really just aggressive sounding and loud, but you don't want it to be distorted and gross. You want it to be clean. So it's a balance. It's all an art in itself, and I'm definitely not the best mastering engineer in the world by far, but you just got to use your ear, and you'll find little details, and it's like the final icing on the cake to make everything look good and gel and play nice together.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks for the explanation.
Oh, sure. For what it was.
No, it helped. Obviously, it's not telling me how to do it, but it's like what it is for the most part. Like, I knew pretty much mixing and, getting the levels, everything like that. But the mastering, I kind of understood a little bit.
Yeah.
But, some of it I was like, okay, yeah, I don't quite know exactly what that is.
Yep.
But
mix
now.
Yep, the volume will pretty much be half of, like, for me, it'll be like half of what a final mix would sound like is what, like mastered mix would sound like is what a mix level should be, right? Right around like -6 dB with enough headroom for the mastering engineer. That's one of the biggest faults of people getting started. They don't realize that, you need to have headroom to for that final stage. If you just have stuff that's already slamming, then it's not going to translate well with mastering. You're not getting what you need out of that. So, it's a whole science and art in itself, man. It's hard to really describe.
Yeah. Sounds like you got it down. you know.
Yeah, it's hard to teach.
So don't do it yourself. Go to Alex and do it. You
I
know?
can definitely help you out. I'm not
Right
a
on.
teacher by any means.
Right on, right on. So, Uncontained is kind of about helping people get off the couch, go out, do what they want to do,
Yeah.
despite, society telling them that they can't do it. Do you have any advice for people who are looking to get started in recording, or as a band going into a recording studio?
Sure. Yeah, the biggest thing is make sure it's something that you love to do. It's not glamorous. No one's becoming millionaires in the music scene. It's people can tell if you're faking it. You really have to love what you do, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it special, and that's what gets you motivated to keep going. And especially starting off, because just so many ups and downs, so many. It's a roller coaster, but at the end of the day, it's something if you love, that's what you have to follow. And getting started is some of the hardest parts. Thankfully now with the way we are in the current generation and age of tech, we can now engage better and learn more than ever before. I didn't have YouTube when I first started. I was typing on message boards and reading text to learn this stuff. And for about audio, it's like it's hard as describing it stuff in person. Like you got to hear it. But just constantly learn, observe others, ask questions. That really is the best thing, and make sure it's something you love. And you'll meet a lot of cool people. It's really, really a fun thing as long as you're into it.
Right on. And that's good advice for the recording side. Would you say the same advice applies for the band coming into it, or
Definitely.
would you have a little different advice for them coming in, maybe a way to prepare for the studio?
Practice. Just practice. practice. I charge hourly, so people that come in and nail their parts, they ended up costing, spending less. And so I always encourage that, because I'm extremely fast. Like most people can't even follow what I'm doing. I click so fast and stuff. So I keep up with the speed of the band. If the band, I love it when bands come in and they just nail stuff first, second take, and it's like, that was awesome. We're done, and then it sounds great because they were prepared. And that's the biggest thing. Just practice. Not enough people do that anymore. And you can learn to do pre-production and practicing to a metronome. You can get audio, any kind of audio recording software on the internet. There's tons of stuff out there, and just learn to play to a click, and that's your best friend. And yeah, just practice to it, and that will make you a better player all around, or performer. So just be prepared. Just really always be prepared. And that goes for playing live shows too, man. You gotta be ready for whatever's going to come at you, especially touring and being on the road. I mean, we've all heard different, horror stories and success stories, but it's, always being prepared is key, and just being organized, and
that's like the Boy Scout motto or something, right? Isn't it?
Actually was in Boy Scouts, man, but I didn't.
Well,
I didn't make it very far, dude. I think I'm.
Yeah, I didn't make it out of Cub Scout.
Yeah, I was in it for the candy and going on trips.
Well, there you go, the campouts
Yep.
and s'mores and shit.
Yep.
Right on. So, you mentioned playing live and stuff like that. Have you recorded any bands live?
No. I do have the capabilities of doing it, but oftentimes it's just a whole nother thing to do. And there's a lot of better production companies that are good at video and audio equipment that can do a better job. They are much more expensive usually, but if you want it done right, I would just recommend that. I've done it a few times, and some of my older bands tried capturing it, and there's always problems. Like a cable goes bad, something gets unplugged, or it's just a bad take and you're missing half the guitars, because the amp, something went wrong, it always just seems to have an issue. So, I still have raws and stuff that I've never released from doing live stuff, but I would recommend going with more a professional audio to video company that have the correct equipment and preparedness to be ready to handle something like that. I'm pretty much a studio guy. We'll come in here and make sure everything sounds good and do it over again if it need be. Not so much the live guy.
And you have to leave your house to go to a live show, right?
No. I gotta see this.
And I gotta go out to go to work.
Man.
What the hell is this shit?
Yeah, no. I mean, I go out and do live sound for bands, but I don't record it. I'll just make it, give this band the sound that they know that I'm familiar with, as opposed to just a guy who's never seen him before, and just kind of goes, blah, okay. It kind of gives them more of a personal touch. But not recording live.
Yeah, it always helps when the sound guy knows the band.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna ask one more thing for advice for people. Live, what can the band do to make it easier on the sound guy trying to give them the best sound and not want to hit the suck button?
Biggest. Man, I'm giving away some secrets here. But biggest thing is whenever, especially when I'm playing in bands, because I know it's not even a secret, man. It's just treat them like a human being. So many people come in, they're treating them like they're working for you, but just, so many people I go like, this is demanding this and demanding that. And it's, dude, I'm a human being too, just be polite to people, and it's unfortunate that you have to say that, but it's, hey man, hey Jeff, nice to meet you, man. How's your day going? And you'll get better sound from people with good communication and a good attitude and knowing your rig, especially if you have things like samples, DIs, anything like that, having all the equipment you need, not asking them if they have a DI box. If you're a band that requires one, bring your own, have your equipment, be prepared, and then if the band's organized, your sound will be way better. And this is, a practice learning thing from a lot of bands, but I mean, I was young once too, man. And so I remember that, and, and it's just, just treat people with respect, and, they're trying the hardest they can, Sometimes it might be your gear that sounds bad, not theirs. Think of that sometimes too.
One thing that I always hear, like when I'm at live shows, is the band saying they need to crank up their amps louder and the sound guy telling them to turn it down. Should you turn it up to 11 or?
No, definitely not. Yeah, no, you got to keep it controlled, and that's why the house speakers are there. Well, I mean, the reason why, it was cool, the whole Spinal Tap thing, these amps go to 11. I mean, they didn't have PA systems that could handle all that stuff and mixers that were able to do that. So your stage volume was the loudness. That was it. That's why you needed stacks. And now people can run, direct out from a cab. You don't even need a cab. A lot of bands don't even use cabs anymore. Everything's digital, and everything you rely on the house for that. And that's why it's the reinforcement that you need as a band, and that let the sound guy control it, not you, just give it enough signal, good healthy volume, and then take it from there. And so, yeah, you don't need to crank it super loud. Let the sound guy take care of that.
Right on. I thought that was going to be something around that answer,
yeah.
but
you never know, man.
So if people want to get a hold of you and get recording done or mixing and mastering done, where can they go to get a hold of you, Alex?
For sure. Elasticlabs.com. It's Elastic with a K, ELASTIK, labs.com. You can contact me through there. You can read about all the services I offer, listen to previous work I've done. I'm also on Facebook, everywhere else you could possibly think. And Twitter, all that good stuff, Snapchat. You can find me based off that website, though. So that's pretty much my hub. But go check it out, and I'd love to work with people that are like-minded to me and really appreciate the art. So.
All right, great. I have another question that I ask all of my guests
Sure.
as they come on the show. My show being named Uncontained. Basically, uncontained means going against the societal norms, people telling you can't do it, you can't go start your recording studio, you can't go make it as a band, you can't do this, you can't do that. How do you live uncontained?
I would just say follow your passion. You know, you only live once, and you gotta do what you love. I had retail job, everything before. I've been to school. It's just stuff I couldn't enjoy, and I wanted to be. You know, I always wanted to be around music, and that's the way. I just don't feel like I'm being contained when I'm being creative with music and working on it. I feel like it's one of the biggest things that brings me happiness, so I follow it. And if people think otherwise, then that's fine. I don't mind it, but it's definitely follow your passion and make sure that you just do it to the best of your abilities and keep on keeping on, you know, and keep going. There's always ups and downs, but as long as you're following what you love to do, that's the best part about it. It never feels like you're done.
Right on. And I know you're just focusing on the recording right now. Do you have any plans to get back into it on the band side of things in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I've been I'm probably gonna rock solo this year. I've been doing the band stuff hard for 8-9 years, man, almost solid. So it's nice to kind of live a more of a normal life schedule. Well, not really being with what I do with music still, but not having another job lingering, because being in a band is like having another job, you know, and it's a job you don't really get paid for. So, yes. And so that's a struggle. And definitely, I mean, like I said, I filled in for bands before. I just love working with bands, filling in, you know, see where things go. I've worked with a couple buddies around town doing some just projects, just having fun and seeing where it goes. And that's the way I just like to live uncontained. So definitely, I mean, sure. I can't stay away from playing live. Once you get the buzz, it doesn't go away. So
fair enough. I knew you'd probably start missing it before too long, and then jump into it, or at least do some in-studio stuff for bands coming in to record.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to help out and fill in and do that sort of stuff. So,
you want to just list off a few bands that you've recorded so people can check them out, give them a little plug?
Sure. I've been working with a couple local bands as we watch them fall currently with their full length. I've been working with Wasted Youth. Pyrotechnica was one of my recent ones. Tribulence. I've just did a couple covers for my friend Matt and Message to the Masses. Those guys are doing great. I used to work with them in the past too. I mean, I'm just kind of all over the place, man. But pretty much all local bands, man. I just love making sure that these guys are taken care of and don't get charged an arm and a leg for decent quality, because I'm a musician myself, and I take that to my business, you know.
A recording engineer with a heart. Imagine that.
I'm from Iowa, man, dude. We can't help it.
I know, dude. It's like,
yep.
People in the Midwest are so nice.
I know. When I first moved here, some people, like once I became friends with them, would have to tell me I need to be more stern and harder on people because I was way too nice of a person. Yep.
People tell me I need to stop being such an ass a lot of the time, but still deep down I'm nice, but still on the outside I'm a little bit of an ass making fun of people.
It's all in good fun though. That's awesome, man.
Right on, Alex. Well, thank you very much for coming on Uncontained today.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, dude, I learned a lot about the recording industry.
Good deal.
And okay, you've got your website. You said that's a hub to get a hold of you.
ElasticLabs.com.
Yes, Elastic with a K, labs.com.
Twitter,
And-
Snapchat, Alex W Best is pretty much all my socials. So find me anywhere.
All right. And you have a SoundCloud too, correct?
Correct. You can find that based off my website. I have it embedded on there. But otherwise, it's just Elastic Labs Rec, I think, REC. But
Okay,
it's on
yeah, I was listening to a couple of the bands before we started the interview.
Sure. No, nice.
Had to check them out a little bit. All right, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And I've been having my guests sign off the show lately with Live Uncontained. Just say your name, Live Uncontained, and throw in any flavor to it that you would like.
Gotcha.
And that will be all, man.
All right. Hey, this is Alex Best. Thanks for listening, and live uncontained.
And that does it for this episode of Uncontained. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks again to Alex Best for coming on, sharing some insight, and giving us that sneak preview of As We Watch Them Fall. Alex is currently in the process of recording their upcoming album. I'll keep you posted on that, and maybe we'll have to have them on the show as well. If you would like to help the show out, please rate, review, subscribe, and share the show in iTunes or the podcast player of your choice. Thank you for listening, and as always, until next time, live uncontained.